tell me what your job currently is.
Okay. Yeah. So right now I'm leading the Americas team responsible for Japanese OEMs. It's the sales team. So the last time we talked, I was doing portfolio management, which was more strategic position. And now what I do is much more related to the actual sales side or managing the accounts, right? So I have a team of 12 key account managers that are responsible for different products, different customers, and I'm responsible for the group, the entire group, and the Americas region. Have employees in U.S., in Mexico, and in Brazil now. It's in automotive. When you talk about sales, is very different than I guess, the most common sense of the word, right? What you do is you have a bunch of contracts that are going to be extended for a long time while you produce a car, which means that you're basically managing contracts. So a lot of the day-to-day stuff is much more like related to finance. Now that we have all these semiconductor issues and freight problems, we were talking about, price adjustments. Uh, we talk about acquisitions, and then when you're quoting for a new business, you're quoting for a new full contract for a vehicle that usually is going to go into production in 3 or 4 years ahead of time. And I would say these are the two, basically the two major things you do in sales. I would say it's making sure that the account is profitable, and managing the price accordingly by negotiations with the customer. And the second point is acquiring new business or securing new contracts. All the rest is basically housekeeping, day-to-day stuff, right? Usually sales is the first; it's the gateway to the companies, and you're involved in all sorts of topics and problems and day-to-day stuff. Customer wants to talk about capacity. Customer wants to talk about reliability. They want to talk about the business continuity plan, and all these things are kind of like attached to this. Um,
But you need a background in engineering for these kinds of jobs usually, right? Or no?
Usually, yes. I think it's a shortcut to this kind of job, and it helps you. It helps you greatly. It gives you an understanding of product manufacturing and all these things, which are very handy when you're dealing with this kind of technical sales.
What's your degree again?
Mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering. And then what was your first job?
I started with application engineering and doing a little bit of quality, like 0 kilometer quality. And I kind of slowly creeped into this kind of like more technical sales side a little bit, because there is an option in the career path. When you start with application engineering, you have a lot of interface with the customer, and you end up having a lot of discussions about cost and pricing. So it was kind of like a natural movement. Um,
It didn't hurt that there's a big pay opportunity in those.
Yeah, usually the progression is way more aggressive, and I would say there is more. It's a way more fluid area of the company. Engineering jobs usually, if you're like talking like core engineering, people will stay in the same job for years, doing the same stuff, and they will become the guy that is specialized on the M8 stud that goes into that specific part of the car. It's just, so it was a little bit of my tentative to not be so specialized on something. But the industry is not really, the automotive industry is just not a great place to be in general, I would say to you.
Right. That's the thing that I talk about a lot. So let me ask you this. When we talked about this before, you were a portfolio manager. I remember you were working a lot of hours. I remember it was very stressful. I remember one time you showed me your watch that monitored your stress. And it looks like some sort of cryptograph, like in a week. It just kept going up and down. It was very unstable. Is this new job still like that, or is it better, worse?
I
Or
I don't
have you
know, man.
become numb to it?
I think I've become numb to it. I think it's
Yeah.
worse. I think it's
It's
worse in
worse.
terms of hours.
Shit.
So because I handle the Japanese customers, and we have an office in Japan, and a lot of the decisions are made in Japan, and I work for a German company, so I have meetings in the morning with Germany. During the day, I have meetings with the team in my area in the
Yeah.
Americas, and then during the nights, I'm starting having meetings with Japan.
You're always on, like it's always on your mind, like 24/7.
You don't turn off. You do not turn off. Last Friday I tried to take a day off. I think it's the first day off I took in the last year, and it's just people calling you all the time, and there's no turning off the whole thing. And the
Is that the worst part of the job, would you say? Like the
yeah, in terms of
Yeah,
yeah, I would say it's very hard being a manager for a big team.
right.
I think a team of 12 people, you get to the point where if I spend 2 hours per week with each person, I don't have time to do my job right. That's the biggest that's the biggest hurdle, and then it gets together with the fact that everything is meetings, and it's
We talked about when we worked together. We talked about exit strategies and how this is not really sustainable for 99.9% of people. Like this kind of job is not something you can do for 30, 40 years without having some sort of impact on either personal life or mental health or something. So what was the game plan? I guess how long to do this job? How long to stay in this field? What to do after?
So my plan today is worst case scenario. I will do this for another around 10 years. So I set up a strategy with between my 401k and RIA and all these other alternatives. I set up a strategy that in 10 years I will have enough money that I will have just in the annual interest that I receive for this money. I will have enough money to make the same
To
exactly the
survive?
same salary that I have
Oh
today.
wow, wow. Just as reference, how old will you be at that point? About
45.
45. Okay.
Now that's very aggressive. That's very aggressive. I discussed this with a lot of friends, and it's so this goes through basically. I can't have any major spending, which means I can't really have kids here. I can't really get sick. I can't. Nothing really big can happen, right? It's this I'm talking about. I'm putting away probably 60 to 70% of my income. I'm basically redirecting to savings.
Was there any idea to, instead of going, let's say, down this route of completely, let's say, saving enough and retiring, finding something else to do that pays, let's say, half or a third of what you're currently making? Because this job that you currently have is, I'm sure, paying a very handsome salary.
I thought about doing this, and so I'm gonna open this window when I get to the point where I would say it's I have enough money to be a sustainable path. That's my plan, right? So I start looking around for jobs that are gonna be, maybe it's not the same pay, but it's gonna put me in a position where like I know that all my bills are paid. I know I have a 6 month cushion here in case anything happens. um, that midpoint would be in 5 years. The problem is usually when you start making more money, you start spending more money, and that's you know.
Yeah, you don't gotta tell me about that. Yeah. All of a sudden, the French Open tickets you want to buy, like, oh, I want premium tickets, when I was just happy with getting into the stadium.
It's there are certain things that really change, like, well, I'm gonna fly, like, why not take business class flight? I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna be tired, I don't want to be tired, I want to enjoy my vacation. It's you can definitely do things in a cheaper way, but I guess my whole idea with this is I set up how much money I need and the target for the years, and then I did the math backwards to say, okay, anywhere else, anything else in this middle, I don't care, I'm just gonna spend, and I'm gonna have a comfortable life with it. I don't know. This week, actually, I was talking to a friend of mine that works for one of the big OEMs and one of the big three, and he's quitting his job after, I want to say, 12 years. They're giving him a severance package. Basically, they're going to pay him a month of salary for each year he stayed. So he basically have 12 years of salary paid up front,
Whoa.
which is,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And now, and,
That's
and
insane.
I don't think he has that much money saved, but it's just a unique opportunity to quit your job, make money, travel around while you're making a hefty salary, and maybe in 6 months you take 6 months sabbatical and then you come back.
Why is there so many people that want to quit engineering? Why is there like because amongst me, you, and the friends we've had in that circle, we know a lot of people. Why is it such a quittable career path?
I think there's a few things. It's inherent to the industry. I think there's a lot of things in the career that in the engineering career, especially when you go to the more I want to say maybe older industries like automotive. There's not a lot of mobility. You can't really do much, and even if you have a great attitude and you want to really move mountains and you have that great spirit of like I'm going to change the world, you're faced with a lot of bureaucracy. You're faced with really like not really a lot of space to grow, and it's just it's institutionalized. It's just it comes with the whole thing. And I think that's in an age where like people are used to having things fast and being able to solve problems easy, and a lot of people are just not really seeing that as a career path. It's not fast enough. It's not mobile enough. It doesn't really give me what I want, and I spend a lot of times in meetings, and it's just
You're doing
not.
something you don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a depiction, and it has nothing to do with what you went to college for, right? I went to mechanical engineering because I love cars. I wanted to work with cars, and in the end, I see that like most of the decisions are financial. Like 90% of my job it's financial. It has nothing to do with cars. It takes away a little bit of the that passion and the reasoning why people went to engineering.
It's also another thing I think about is the type of person that goes into engineering is usually someone really good at problem solving, someone that's relatively creative, thinks outside the box, and then they go into a career where it's literally the opposite of that. You become a cog in the system. You're not able to do anything creatively. You're basically stuck progressing in a way that they want you to progress. So it's like it's the worst kind of person to put in this job because it's completely opposite of what that person wants to be doing.
Yeah, that's probably true. I try to, and now that I'm management, I try to and maybe take my team to the other side, and and really give them the problems and let them solve situations. And I always tell them, only come to me with the problem if you have like if you have three solutions and you're like kind of like deciding which one you want to take, and you want me to make a decision. But if you don't have a solution for the problem, don't even come to talk to me. Go figure out a solution first. Yeah, and I'm paying people to bring me solutions and not to just come in with the problems and expect me to tell them what to do. I really don't need that. And it's I know it's a little bit of it's just a small portion of what would motivate people, but I try to do it this way, in a way that like really gives people the empowerment and the choices to make what they can, to contribute to the actual resolution of the day-to-day problems.
Let me ask you one final question. If I could give you a clean slate and money wasn't an issue, you could do anything that you wanted to do right now, what would you do? It's
I
a
would
tough one.
probably. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I would probably do something. I don't know, maybe a bar or something like this. This is always something
Hell
I
yeah.
wanted to do. Something simple. Some beers on tap. Burgers on the menu, and I know that I'm going to be probably working really hard and probably more than I work right now. I know the schedules are not really great, but I think there's something to be said about working hard for something that is yours, and working with something that is going to be a little bit less full of politics, right? When you're running a bar, you're dealing directly with people. You see what's happening right there. That's something I always think about. I thought about doing a career change to something in engineering, but more related to, green technology or something like this. So I looked into companies that do like those wind turbines, and they have all these projects now that are going on where people are putting wind turbines in the ocean to harvest like that power, to turn that into hydrogen. That would be something like I think it's really amazing. Something that I would really be interested in. I think it's an opportunity to actually put in my engineering hat and go do something that actually contributes to the world, and I think it would make me happy. I think a little bit of the problem here is doing something that I you know I'm seeing as purely mathematical and not really, helping people.
That's a big problem in engineering, but that's the dream though. That's what they sell you. The dream. Oh, you get a great $80,000 to $100,000 job, and you just sit in a cubicle and you do some bullshit task 8 hours a day for 40 years. It's like it's not really sustainable. I don't know who these people are that get into those jobs and love them, but like I could never become one of those. I tried. I could not become one of these people.
Yeah, I don't know. We have a lot of people still joining the company. There's still a lot of hiring going on for engineering jobs. It's definitely, I would say it's transitioning from like mechanical to more like software algorithm based functions. Seem to be more common. And I think these people just enjoy this. I don't know. I'll tell you, like, I met so many people that have been doing the same job for like 20 years. And it's just, I think it's just a job, And maybe I'm an idealist and I want to have a job that has meaning and that has a purpose and, it's not really just a job. But maybe that's the way these people see it. In my mind, these people they have this little box in their lives, which is like, okay, this is my job. It doesn't matter it's boring. It doesn't matter it's a meat grinder. I'll do that for 8 hours and that's it.
It's like, I don't know if you've seen the show Severance yet. I don't
I
know
don't
if you've
think I
heard of
did.
it. The show, it's like a science fiction show where these people experiment. They try this new experimental thing where they like split your brain into two parts. You have your work brain and then you have your after hours brain. So when you go into the office, your work brain turns on and your other brain is inactive. And then when you exit the office, your social brain turns on. So why you would do this procedure is you don't want to experience work. Like you just want another you to experience it. That's kind of in a sense what happens in a lot of these, like, especially automotive engineering. I don't think every engineering job is like that. I think automotive engineering is specifically but soul crushing, bureaucratically overcrowded, all these problems that it has. But
Yeah, I think I don't know. I thought about a lot about transitioning also to consulting jobs because in my mind it was like, okay, if I'm gonna work really hard, at least I'm gonna go to something that pays like way more than what I'm doing right now.
right,
I don't believe in that anymore, to be honest. I changed
yeah,
my mind on that. Yeah, look, I think the consulting does pay well, but I think it's an even worse meat grinder. And then you're like you're gonna become completely like a person putting out PowerPoints, at 2 a.m. That's what you're
right,
gonna
right,
do. Uh,
yeah,
and I don't know. I finally, that the other problem is, and they keep luring you in, right? So I would say from the last time we talked about this, I made a very substantial move in terms of paycheck and career moves. So it just keeps luring you in, right? Because in the end, I'm looking at this as like, okay, the higher I go here, the faster I can get out of this.
right. But then it's a bit of a trap because the rat race just keeps going, and time flies, and you forget that you're even in the rat race.
Yeah, no, it's
Let's end on that happy sunshine note. Well, I don't know. I hope I don't know. I hope some people find value in this. I think there's a lot of people that are in the same position and they don't understand. Like, is this how I'm supposed to feel? Is this the reality that I'm in? And I want to talk to some more friends and see where they're at because I talked to a lot of people about the career switch, and the reality is very few execute. Very few execute, and that's a combination of reasons: family, money, being happy with what you, or being content with what you have, not knowing what else you can do. Like, knowledge is everything, right? If you don't know the other side, then why would you ever jump into it?
It's a big step too because this is not a situation like I think about this. If I go do something completely different now, it's not like I'm gonna take like 2 steps back. I'm gonna take 10 steps
Yeah.
back.
Oh
I've
yeah.
been
Yeah.
doing this for 15 years. I'm in
It's
top
hard to
management
replace
now.
that thing. Yeah.
And well, if I quit doing this, what do I do with all this knowledge I have about automotive?
Right. But yeah. Yeah. It's interesting topic. But yeah. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.